Hello, we're back, and we are well into our third year of solo development on Bladewarden and its underlying engine. This time we have in fact added a few thousand lines of code, and while it's not a big number, I'm happy it's actually all doing stuff rather than just being added bloat. As for the files, I only added one image asset since last time, so that's basically all just new class files for the new AI logic I've had to add. Speaking of, the to-dos from the last devlog, which was now over 100 days ago, made it sound like adding a new enemy units, enemy spawning, enemy behaviour and unit combat would be a walk in the park. Turns out I was wrong, and there is nothing basic about any of those things. This kind of makes sense since game AI development is an entire subfield on its own in the games industry, but it's frustrating that you have to write so much infrastructure before you see anything happen on the screen at all. Take AI behaviour for example. I wanted something which I thought would be really simple, add in a few enemy units and get them to encircle your faction border. Unfortunately, it's not as simple as just sending units to any unoccupied border hex. That would be too easy for the player to counter, so I wanted something a bit more complex. Thankfully, I've wasted enough hours playing Total War, Crusader Kings and Hearts of Iron to skip ahead a little on the AI journey and create a way for the enemy to know where the highest threat from the player's units are. So I thought what we could do is just assign a threat or strength value based on the number of nearby units and every hex on the map. Symbols, right? Wrong. Damned wrong. Storing the values is easy, but hooking them all up to whenever a unit was created, moved, or destroyed was a pain. Similarly, it turned out I needed to track units' attack and defense separately, and then I also needed to keep track per hex of the difference between the AI units and the player's unit strength. Great, once that was done, what next? Well, it turns out we needed more infrastructure, because I had no way in game to actually see what was going on with these values. So I finished a long-standing goal of adding a debug menu into the game, which I'm pretty happy with, and added a bunch of options here so I could actually work out what was going on and what was happening. Notably the option to unrestrict the player camera, toggle the fog of war, and show a new strength overlay for each type of data we track for each faction. Right now the overlay runs like absolute poop, but it gets the job done, and is very useful for understanding what the AI sees. It definitely would be good in the future to expand on this by visualizing the actual values. But okay, we can now track the unit's current attack strength versus an enemy's defense strength. However, it doesn't account for units moving. After all, we want the enemy to be a bit of a challenge. So more infrastructure. This time we added a way of tracking all those values for units based on their eventual target destination. But because that turned into the AI into a complete psychic that would move their units to where yours will be in 15 moves time, I also had to add in a way to track just the next hex a unit was moving to. That ended up with a much more realistic way of the AI behaving. Now all we needed to do was couple that with a method to spawn enemy units regularly at the closest settlement, and we suddenly have an AI that spawns units and sends them to the location with the highest threat, lowering that threat and then sending units to the next highest threat and so on. Almost like a real strategy game. Which is kind of what we're watching on screen now. Of course, there were a bunch of other tweaks that were needed too, like changing the unit and movement logic quite a bit, making the pathfinding more efficient, making units stop if they suddenly can't path to a place, adding in unit statuses, refactoring loads of stuff, and oh yeah, adding in a completely different move type. This was actually fairly important because what was happening early on was the enemy AI units were intentionally passing through a player's land to get to the other side so they could defend there. But this was obviously a right pain because it resulted in them capturing the player's land on the way, and the capital, and then using that capital as a spawn point. We really don't want units that are meant to be defending accidentally attacking instead. So since then I've added a different peaceful pathfinding option for all units so they can now only move through locations their faction actually owns. Not that the player's units use this. For now it's just useful for this defensive behaviour, but I'm thinking it will have a whole bunch of uses for non-combat units in the future. Now about that feature, next time we need to, number 1, add in attacking behaviour, and 2, add in a new combat system. If I only pick 2 tasks, I'm hoping I'll have a better time of achieving them, and there is of course a whole bunch more I'd like to do, like the art, additional unit mechanics, and how to actually display the combat to the player, but we'll count those as optional extras for now. But that's about it for this devlog. Only a short episode this time because of how back-end most of this logic is, and consequently how hard it is to show what's actually happening. But until next time, thanks for watching, and bye!